In a perfect world, in my logbook, my takeoff should always equal my landings. But every now and then, that's not going to happen. This is a situation that happened last week on a flight from LA to DFW on a red eye flight where I performed a takeoff, but I couldn't land, and neither could the captain. And we had to let the airplane land by itself. And this is an odd situation. It's only come up a few times in my career. Again, this is a red eye flight. It's a flight that leaves late at night and arrives early in the morning. Not ideal, but I've learned how to deal with red eye flights. I've been doing them for a couple of years. I slept the night before, had a full day of activities, and then I slept a few hours before the flight. This is an Airbus 321. We had 31,000 pounds of fuel. Main takeoff was 29.8. We had two alternates due to the weather in Dallas, Austin, and Houston. We had reserve and hold fuel. Of note, the captain and I both had lots of Airbus time. We'd also been both captains at my previous airline. We had the same airline before this, and we will both have lots of experience. But because he's new to the captain's seat, only 30 hours experience, he was restricted. According to FAA, all new captains have to add 200 feet to the minimums and half mile for the visibility, keeping it simple. This was day 4 for me, kind of day 4 for him. We both flew together on day 1 of the trip, but then on days 2, I flew with a different captain. And then he joined me on day 3. We flew to LA. Anyways, I had my meal below my seat, a cold meal, not ideal, but it was a meal to keep me occupied on the flight. Everything set up for the flight, and looking over my numbers and then over at the radar, it was fine until we got over New Mexico and got into the jet stream, and then look at all that color around the DFW area. Lots of rain and convective activity.
Max 2625, Los Angeles, runway 25 right, line of 08.
25 right, line for American 2625.
As you may know, on the ground, the FO is always pilot monitoring. He or she always talks to ATC when on the ground and runs all checklist. So even though it's my leg to DFW, I'm running checklist, I'm talking to ATC until we are on the runway and lined up, at which point the captain says, your aircraft, I say, my aircraft, and we swap roles.
American 2625 at the shoreline, turn left heading 210, runway 25 right, clever day go.
Okay, at the shoreline, heading 210 on 25 right, clever day go, 25 knots.
So that was the captain's voice, and he took over the radio for the rest of the flight until we got closer to Dallas. Leaving out of LA late at night, it's not much traffic around, and I think they have us turning at the shoreline to avoid noise for the guests' expensive houses. I'm not quite sure, but it's kind of funny because it's low clouds. We couldn't actually see the shoreline, so we had to use our ground radar to see where the water started to begin the left-hand turn to heading 210.
American 2625, contact Lookout Departure, good day.
Good departure, good day.
The flight was pretty normal, pretty smooth until we got over New Mexico, got into the jet stream, got a good tailwind, but a little bit of turbulence. And then we started seeing the weather in Dallas, and things weren't going so great. And the weather in Houston went so bad, we had to lose that alternate and change our alternates to Austin and Oklahoma City and prepare for an auto land. And auto land isn't just pressing buttons and watching everything work. There's a lot of preparation that must be done. We have to make sure the plane's all ready to go. Everything at the airport is all set up, and then the weather and all. It's a lot of stuff to do. The captain starts flying the approach. Before the approach starts, auto thrust is must be used, and auto brakes should be used. Few of the topics we discuss, again, we have to do a go around if, as an FO, I don't see the word land below 350 feet above the ground. If I see any auto land warning, we have to go around. If I, as the FO, I'm looking down and I don't see the word flare around 40 feet, we should be going around. And if we get to minimums and the captain doesn't say anything, I, the first officer, need to take over and probably land, but it's my decision at that point. A lot's going on. We're coming down here at 170 miles an hour. We can't see anything. In the last few seconds, a lot of things have to happen and a lot of choices must be made, even on an auto landing. Again, it's not just pressing buttons and watching the plane land itself. The weather in Dallas, we had winds about 1003. They were reporting 2 miles visibility, light thunderstorms, rain, mist, scattered 300 feet above the ground, overcast cumulonimbus clouds, and the temperature and dew point were equal, meaning things aren't so great. Early in the morning, there was very few arrivals, but those that were getting in were reporting getting in right at the ILS Cat 1 min. If I was flying with a regular line captain who's been here for, more than 2 months, I could land a plane no problem, but because the captain is new, I can't land, and neither could he. Coming on the arrival over the Blue 5 arrival, here's the big storm on the arrival. We couldn't even go over there. We were given vectors and just given our own way of picking around the storm. We started turning right after Giblet and made our way around north side of the airport and get vectors finally the runway 17 center for the approach. We didn't change roles until we intercepted the localizer, and then he became pilot flying, I became pilot monitoring. Here's the approach chart. Normally we'll go down to 762, but again, clouds are at 300 feet, and they're a little bit actually worse than that. And with his men at 962, we couldn't even do the approach, even Cat 1. We could do a Cat 2 auto land due to our restrictions at the airline. Let's go with me on this. We couldn't do Cat 3. We could do Cat 2, meaning we can go down 102 feet for this approach, but we had to see something, see the runway before we could land. If we got down 102 feet and we didn't see anything, we had to do a go around, even on an auto land.
Delta 1647, still need about 10.5.
Delta 1647, dear 3 tower, no problem, sir. We've got a little bit of a delay for an arrival on the west side, just in case they go around.
Good morning, American 2625, 17 center.
American 2625, dear 3 tower, runway 17 center, clear to land.
Still land 17 center, American 2625.
I tried to make this with the actual weather and the thunderstorms, but the sim kept having issues, so I just did light rain. But we didn't see anything. Coming down the slope here, we're on the glide slope on the localizer, and we see nothing outside. Now, it says Cat 3 dual up top. That means what the plane can do, not the actual approach. Things are looking good. Again, I'm eyes inside the entire time. The captain's looking outside. The autopilot is on. I see green land, and I say land green. Still looking inside, looking for any issues to cause the captain to go around. And this is how it looked. He saw the approach lights, but couldn't see anything else. And we're going 170 miles an hour. Right above minimums, he finally says runway in sight. But again, we don't touch anything. We are monitoring the plane and making sure it's going to land safely. But my eyes are still inside looking for flare. Flare happened. I'm quiet. We land and life is good. I don't say anything else until I say spoilers and we start slowing down on the runway. And as we're rolling out here, notice that the autopilot stays on the entire time. It stays on the entire rollout. The autopilot is guiding the plane down the center of the runway. Every now and then, the captains forget to turn the autopilot off, trying to turn off the runway, and it's like, oh yeah, the autopilot's still on. But yeah, it stays on the entire rollout. We turn the autopilot off, and then we taxi off the runway.
American 2625 at Echo Lima, cross runway 17 right, and taxi via Kilo to Park 15.
Echo Lima, cross from 45, Kilo to Park 2, 25.
And American 2625, how's the ride on final?
It was fine. We broke out right at 100 feet above the runway.
American 2625, outside.
And with that, the trip was done. Parked the airplane and went home for Thanksgiving Day. Hopefully next time I fly the captain, he has his 100 hours so I can land the plane and my numbers could be equal. Have a fabulous day as always, and thank you for stopping by.